The views and opinions expressed in the following program are
So
those
is it me or Ron?
Participants. And
What? As of right now, it's, well, Ron should be in there in a minute.
And advertisers.
Are we on?
Not yet.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pushing the Limits radio show podcast with your host, Leonard Cardinelli. You will notice that today Brian Shapiro is not in studio. He is the regular host. I'm filling in for him, kind of like a substitute teacher, I guess you could say. And it looks like we're going to start with a guest. We got Ron Filipkowski, who's the editor-in-chief of the Midas Touch. You think Ron's ready to go, or yeah? Okay, so we're gonna go right into that today, and then later on we'll get to some news and some clips, and then we'll take your calls. I'm ready. Hey, good morning, Ron. How are you?
Hey, good. How you doing?
Good. I don't know if I know we haven't personally met, but my name's Leonard Cardinelli, and I fill in for Brian once in a while, and I co-host with him. You may have seen me, and I'm a 25-year retired police lieutenant, and me and Brian are good friends, and I like to talk politics. So welcome to the show.
Okay, thanks a lot. I hear he's headed for a big debate in D.C. or something, right?
Yeah, Brian's in travel today, and he's headed, I believe he's landing in D.C., but the actual debate is going to be with Tim Pool, and I think that's in Virginia. So there's some serious Trump country there. Hopefully he'll be okay. And we're looking forward to the debate. I really am. It's been a while. Brian's been invited on. And is there anything pressing you want to get to? Because I do have some questions for you, but is there anything pressing you want to talk about first?
Well, you can get to the questions. I mean, basically the ballroom thing is, Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary.
Yeah. I got a clip on that. And Trump, he's out there waving around renderings of the ballroom. And you know what I want to ask you, Ron? Why do you think some of the major news channels are not really covering that much?
Yeah, the frustrating thing is local news, especially. Some of the cable news, like your CNNs, your MSNBCs, they do. But the problem is that most of the voters who actually decide elections don't watch cable news. If they're going to watch any news at all, it's going to be their local news channels or something like that. So that's the problem, is that the non-cable news channels don't cover things like that. And these are the kinds of things I think that really can break through to that low information voter who isn't really plugged into politics when they see the entire east wing of the White House demolished, and Trump has decided to demolish the entire thing. First, he said in July, no part of the White House was going to be touched. Then he changed it to, okay, we have to take down part of the east wing. Then yesterday he changed it to the whole thing has to go, and who cares? It's a small building anyway. That's what he said. So I think that that's something that will really register. And the fact that he didn't clear this with anyone. He didn't give anyone advance notice. He didn't talk to anybody at Congress. He didn't talk to anybody with the National Park Service. He just did it. And his press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, was asked about this afternoon. And she was asked this question: does Trump thinks he has the power to just demolish any federal building? Specifically, she was asked, could he destroy the Lincoln Memorial if he wanted to?
It's a good question.
And her answer was yes.
Well, what they're doing is they're saying it's, people have always modified the White House and they've decorated, and they have the right to do that. And I agree. And then they bring up Obama, who basically painted over a tennis court to build a basketball court, and they're trying to say that that's equal to knocking down the East Wing. And I think it was going to be 90,000 square feet. I can't remember. But now he's saying that there's plans for an even bigger structure that's actually going to be, that could be bigger than the White House itself. Have you heard that?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be much bigger than the White House, much bigger. It's going to make the White House look like a guest house on the property. So it's first it started out as 200 million. Then he said it was 250. Now he's saying, he said today it's going to be 300 million, and it keeps going up and up. And he also first claimed he was going to pay for it himself. And now we know that's not happening. I mean, we just saw the list of corporate donors.
I mean, interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, we just saw the list of corporate donors. I mean, it's a bunch of CEOs and oligarchs and rich people who want something from the government. That's why they're given money. They expect something in return. They're not donating this money out of the kindness of their heart.
Does that amount to corruption?
Well, I think so, because
the thing
is, if you have to get the money through Congress, then that requires a vote of Congress who represents people in their districts. And what he knows is that this would never pass Congress. Asking for this funding right now, $300 million, and even asking to tear down the White House and build this giant ballroom would never pass Congress. So he has to bypass Congress somehow by going to these wealthy people who all want something from the government. And the lists of companies are out there. If people want to boycott them or whatever, or call them, they can. You know,
I can't remember some of the other ones, but
Google.
Yeah, Google some of the major. But you know what the strange part is, Ron, is that even if he wanted to involve Congress at this point, there's no way to do that because they don't even have the plans. Like they asked him if they had, do you have structural plans? Can you show us the budget, et cetera? And they said no.
Yeah,
they said no. They showed him a rendering that's supposed to be sufficient. You can't go into. I don't think you can go into Congress and vote on a rendering. Is that correct?
No, all this has to be approved through the National Park Service and everything else. No, I mean and there was a no bid contract. I mean, he just gave it to one of his cronies, the contract to build this. It's
a
monstrosity.
Like as you know, single source contracts have to be justified, correct? They have to be the only source that can do that type of work. And just renting a dump truck and a backhoe doesn't account for being a sole source contract. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about, this is exactly the reason for the No Kings protest this weekend, is because we don't want a president who acts as if he can do whatever he wants. That's what kings do. And that's exactly what he's doing in this situation. He has not checked with anyone. He hasn't checked with the speaker. He hasn't checked with the Senate Majority Leader. He hasn't checked with DC code enforcement, the National Park Service. He's just doing whatever he wants.
Yeah, I think that America was originally designed to be a checks and balances type of, that's what everybody wanted in the beginning. And the checks and balances have strangely held up for a long time, even through Trump's last presidency. But it looks like by appointing people who are not hired for merit, if you talk about your Pete Hegseths and you talk about your Kash Patels, they're not being hired on merit, which is the reason they said they got rid of DEI, was because they want to hire people on merit. But there's no merit in these hirings. It's just all loyalty to Trump.
And that is why we all knew that this second Trump administration was going to be radically different from the first, because the first administration, you had Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, who pushed back. You had in the Senate, Mitch McConnell running things, who pushed back. I mean, his own Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, did. John Kelly did. Mark Esper did. There were so many, Mark Milley did. There were so many people inside his administration that repeatedly told him, no, 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 you can't do that, sir. That's not allowed. All of those kind of people are gone. There's nobody like that in Trump 2.0. You got people like Hegseth and Bondi and Stephen Miller. They've replaced all the adults that were in the room. So and now you got Mike Johnson running the House instead of a Paul Ryan, or Nancy Pelosi was Speaker for part of Trump's term. So there are no checks and balances right now. They have abdicated all authority to dear leader, the King Donald, and he just does whatever he wants.
You know, Ron, I know you're an attorney. Would you be okay answering maybe a legal question with your opinion?
Okay.
So who has standing? So if they're not taking taxpayer money, but the East Wing was built with taxpayer money, and now you supposedly have these companies coming in to pay for the new ballroom. And if somebody wanted to file a lawsuit to try to stop what's going on, who would have standing in that particular situation?
Yeah, it's a really complicated question. Well, here's what I can tell you. I know for a fact is that there are groups right now, as we speak, looking to file a lawsuit to stop some of this stuff. There are a lot of different groups, and standing is definitely going to be an issue. Who has the right to challenge this? Does the president have this authority? Is he violating federal law?
Right, it's a historical landmark.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I think you might possibly be able to bring standing just as an American citizen, in general.
Right,
as a taxpayer.
Your taxes paid for,
I
for the
expect lawsuits to be filed. I have heard that there are people actively looking to do that right now.
Can we, is it all right if we switch gears a little bit and talk about Ukraine and Russia?
Sure.
And I was going to ask you, was Trump's denial of long-range missiles like the Tomahawk, was that a green light for Putin and Russia to continue to intensify bombing on Ukraine?
Well, interestingly enough, Putin said comment on that this morning, and he basically said if Ukraine uses long-range missiles against him, as he does against them, that there will be just massive retaliation, and he's threatening them with nukes if they do that. And he said that this morning. An interesting pattern with Putin has developed, and that is every single time Trump sets a peace summit or a meeting, either with Zelensky or with him, he immediately ratchets up the bombing. It's definitely part of his strategy is to, as we saw last night he bombed a kindergarten. That's what he does every time there's some sort of conference or meeting or talks, either to talk about increased aid, sanctions. I mean, Trump finally just
sanctioned the largest oil companies, but
yeah, that's the first thing Trump has done, and Putin responded by bombing a kindergarten. So, I mean, that's definitely the meeting that was the summit that was supposed to take place in Hungary has just been canceled. Putin said this morning he said, it's funny because Trump comes out and says things and then Putin always contradicts him, which is kind of funny. But, Trump said that Putin wanted the summit in Hungary. Putin came out this morning and said, oh, no. Trump was the one who asked for the summit. I agreed to it. And Trump was the one who wanted to do it in Hungary, not me.
I haven't, not to interrupt you, but I have a quick opinion on that. So I think Trump has been offering military artillery and possibly helping them build a nuclear facility, if I'm correct, and in exchange for trying to get them to stop giving oil or selling oil to Russia. So I think behind the scenes, I think Trump had a real reason to want to go there.
Oh, to Hungary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, Viktor Orban is obviously the most Putin friendly leader in Europe. He also loves Trump. And he hates Zelensky. I mean, Orban has trashed Zelensky on a regular basis. So when that location was announced, Zelensky, of course, immediately objected to it and said, why are we doing Hungary? The other problem that you had is Putin had to get there. Hungary is a landlocked country. He has a warrant out for his arrest with the International Criminal Court.
And he couldn't be sure.
How is he going to? He's going to have to fly over a European country. Poland came out and said, if he attempts to fly over Poland, we will down his plane and arrest him. Mm-hmm. They came out and said that the foreign minister, Sikorsky. So, but one country did step up. Bulgaria stepped up and said he can fly over our territory. So that's also part of Putin's strategy, too, is to divide the West and to get them to argue with each other.
Yeah, he's always argued that democracy is a bad idea and it's not going to work. And apparently Donald Trump is willing to help him with that. I have a couple more questions. On last Sunday, there were attacks by Hamas with shoulder-fired grenades and other weapons, and Israel's IDF shot and killed Palestinians. I think some were shot just last night at the border going through the Gaza Strip. And they continue to say it's a ceasefire. Is this really a ceasefire? Is it really what they're saying it is?
This thing unraveled within 24 hours. And this is
Yes.
the problem. I mean, the problem is that Trump is never honest with anyone about anything. He could have just gone over and said, we have this temporary ceasefire. We're going to do the hostage exchange. We're keeping our fingers crossed, but this is going to be very difficult. There's going to be some hiccups along the way. But, this has been a tough nut to solve and tough nut to crack. But instead, Trump just, as usual, overhypes everything. Peace in our time. Everything is wonderful now.
The war is over.
Everybody's in love. The war is over. And within 24 hours, they're killing each other again. So J.D. Vance flies over there yesterday to Israel to try and patch everything back together. And they absolutely insulted him. The far right Netanyahu's party has a vote on, in their parliament, in their Knesset, to say we're gonna seize the West Bank. And on his way to the airport, Vance this morning said he felt personally insulted by Netanyahu that they held that vote while he was on Israeli soil because it threatens the peace talks. That's how
what they call the Speaker of the House, the equivalent. I think his name is Cassette, if I'm not mistaken, held a vote, and they voted to annex the West Bank, which doesn't necessarily belong to Israel. It's in three basic parts. There's an A, a B, and a C, and none of it in totality belongs to Israel.
And that directly contradicts the peace deal also. And that's why Vance called it an insult. He called it a stunt. He's like, I don't know why they just did that while I was here. And it's like he took it personally that they were basically saying F you to Vance is how he
so the stunt master is upset that somebody pulled a stunt on him. Is that what it is?
Exactly right. Yeah.
The stunt master general. Do you think so that right after the ceasefire, Hamas brought in at least 7,000 fighters and more since then. And they went house to house, and there's reports of them bringing people who spoke against them or were leaders at the time and executed them in the street. And now that there's a borderline, which I don't think is going to last. But now that Hamas is in the Gaza Strip, is there any chance of them ever leaving or disarming?
Well, that's an interesting question, because Vance said today that is the next step, is that United States forces will be U.S. soldiers are going to be part of a international peacekeeping force that is now going to go in to Gaza and disarm Hamas. And I'm like, good luck with that. Let's just see how that goes.
Does that sound like a peace deal?
Yeah, I mean, do they really believe that Hamas is going to disarm and turn over their weapons to international peacekeepers? That will be very interesting to watch.
Do you think that the Palestinian Authority will have any say in what happens in the Gaza Strip? Do they have any power? Do they have enough power to have any influence at all?
I mean, that's the thought. If you disarm Hamas, they would. But I don't think Hamas is going to disarm. This is going to be a quagmire. This reminds me so much of Vietnam in like 1963, when Kennedy is just saying, we're just sending in peacekeepers and advisors, and before you know it, we got boots on the ground. We got sucked into it. And I feel the same way about Gaza, that we are incrementally getting pulled into this thing. And the last thing, after we finally got out of Iraq and Afghanistan, the last thing we need to do is get sucked into putting boots on the ground in Gaza.
Is that America first? I mean, between Argentina and Ukraine and Israel, is that really America first? Really?
During the campaign, I covered the MAGA movement. I covered Trump rallies, and this is not what they voted for. No matter what they say, they truly believe that there was going to be no overseas adventurism under a second Trump
Right. It's going to be a nationalist society,
right?
And it's
all going to be here. And from day one, it's been Greenland, it's been Panama Canal, it's been Venezuela, Colombia, Gaza, Iran, Qatar. I mean, it's all over the place where Trump is involving us in conflicts and messes. So it's the last thing from America first.
I saw on your X account, you were talking about Elise Stefanik last night. What do you think of Elise Stefanik talking trash about Mamdani and his debate performance?
I mean, it's pretty pathetic that, her arch enemy for her entire political career is Andrew Cuomo. She hates Andrew Cuomo. And now the fact that she hates Mamdani and feels threatened by him more, she is actually backing Cuomo right now, tacitly. And it's just pathetic to watch that. Terrible. I mean, her comment about Mamdani that he's inauthentic and comes across as a fraud. Elise Stefanik's #1 mission in 2022 was to elect George Santos to Congress, the biggest fraudster. She said last night, New Yorkers can spot a fraud a mile away. She spent a solid year campaigning for Santos.
About a mile away.
When his whole bio was made up. She went to all her big donors, Stefanik's donors, which are upstate New York, nowhere near Santos's district. She went to her donors in her district and begged them to give money to Santos. And they did, and they got defrauded. They became victims in his scheme. That's Elise Stefanik.
If you listen to the debate and you listen to Mamdani talk about his policies, the one thing that makes him popular is his authenticity. It's the way that he speaks to people, the way he connects to people. They could have picked on something else. Mamdani asked Cuomo, what do you have to say to the 13 or 14 women that have accused you, of sexual impropriety? And Cuomo didn't even really, he said, what would you say to those women? And he said, all the charges were dropped. That was his answer. Yeah. But Stefanik doesn't want to bring that up, those types of answers. She doesn't want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because, in our Midas text group, we have a bunch of guys that work for our company, a bunch of people. And, when when Elise made that comment that he's inauthentic, the first thing that everybody said was, that's the last thing that you would attack him about. If he has one strength, it's authenticity. Like if you want to go after him as a Republican, there's a million things you can go after him about. Why would you go after his strength? I mean, it just made her look foolish.
Do you have time for one more question,
okay,
Ron?
Sure. Yeah.
Is Mike Johnson intentionally holding up the swearing in of Adelita Grijalva confirmation because she's a 218th vote to release the full Epstein files? Do you think from a legal perspective that the lawsuit filed by Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays in the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. will gain any traction, and will the lawsuit be successful on the merits of the case?
Okay, I think that she will probably be sworn in before the lawsuit is heard.
Me too.
But because he can't drag his feet for much longer. Here's the problem. So yes, it is being delayed because of Epstein. There's no other reason. All his excuses are nonsense. I mean, they're just completely ridiculous. He's had the House adjourned for 78 out of the last 90 days. Think about that. In the last 3 months, House Republicans have convened for 12 days, and they're still getting full pay. And he says, "Oh, they're working hard back in their districts." How the hell do we know that? I mean,
they're afraid to go to town hall. None of them want to go to town halls because they get beat up.
Right? They won't do town halls. Yeah, so they're doing. He said they're doing constituent services.
Yeah,
all
whatever.
Right.
Me too. Me too.
Here's what's going to happen. I mean, because of the shutdown, they're going to have to do a standalone vote on probably military pay and air traffic controller pay. If they don't get this done, they're going to have to at least bring people in to do a vote on that. And they're going to have to do that next week. And so I think that that's the point where he's just going to be forced to swear her in and he's not going to be able to drag this out anymore. And by the way, from the date that he swears her in, that has to be brought up for a vote within 10 days, the Epstein thing.
Wow. So what are possible remedies? Like, when they go in front of the judge, if they see it, Chris Mays it makes the point, and what are possible remedies? What kind of power does what could the court compel them is what I'm asking.
That has never been ruled on by a court.
Right.
It's an interesting question because it's also basically she's bringing it on behalf of the district, the people the 700,000 people that don't have representation.
Taxation without
AG. Right. And we have 700 people that haven't had, in fact, they haven't had representation since March. Here's the thing. Her dad was the former congressman. He died of cancer in March. So that district has not had representation for almost 8 months now in Congress.
Could they sue them for the back taxes? Could they say, we paid our taxes, 700,000 people, and we're suing you because you refused to give us representation?
Yeah.
That would be nice, right? If they can get their taxes back.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't work. Here's what I think. I think it'll go through the courts. But I think that he will swear her in before the rubber meets the road on that lawsuit. He called it a stunt. It probably is a little bit of a stunt, but stunts are part of politics. It's to force him, it's to embarrass him and humiliate him. That's the purpose of the lawsuit. And I think it's working because the good thing is, because I used to complain about the Capitol Hill press corps that they would not ask him about swearing her in. Days would go by and he wouldn't get asked about it. But now he's getting asked about it every single day,
Well, thank you for coming, everybody. Ron Filipowski, if you just tuned in, he's the editor-in-chief of the Midas Touch, and he was here giving us some real expertise on what's going on in the world. What do you have coming up, Ron? You want to announce anything?
Yeah, I'm busy writing my column, a lot of it about the ballroom situation and a few other things. Melania Trump's crypto scam. She's being sued by two different groups right now. One over her crypto scam, and the other one by author Michael Wolff has just filed a defamation lawsuit against her. Then you got Trump, who's just pardoned today, a crypto kingpin.
Criminal
who is helping out his crypto company. So I'm writing about all that on Substack.
Okay, well, we appreciate it, Ron. I guess we'll probably see you next week. Brian will be back in studio, and like I said, thank you so much. We're honored to have you come and share some time and share your thoughts with us. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Okay, we'll see you.
There's a break next. We're moving on. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
phone calls, probably in about 30 minutes or so, depending on how long it takes to get all the information out. So the breaking news today, as you know, is some NBA stars were arrested. Several prominent NBA stars have been arrested as part of a sweeping investigation into a mafia-linked illegal gambling activity. It's a years-long investigation, 30-plus defendants involving tens of millions of dollars, allegedly fixed illegal poker rings around the United States using high-tech like X-ray tables and X-ray glasses and mark cards and modified card shufflers, things of that nature. Billups and Damon Jones were allegedly paid for participation. Those are two NBA stars. They are, let's see, Chauncey Billups is the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers, and he's been in the Hall of Fame. He played in the NBA for 17 years. Allegedly, threats of violence and extortion were used at the time. Terry Rozier allegedly rigged the games in connection with sports bettors, allegedly shared info with bettors about games, rosters, and who would be on the bench. Also allegedly faked injury in March 2023 in a game to benefit a betting ring. Terry Rozier of the Miami Heat is a Miami Heat guard. He has 10 years in the NBA, and he has been investigated by the NBA previously. By example, in today's gaming markets, you can bet on an individual player, such as an under/over. So, if you have a fantasy league and you're betting on a player and not the team, the player is going to know what the under/over is. By example, 15 points he'll score in the game, under or over. And so what they're saying is if the person playing is involved, it can be manipulated. Mafia crime families are being investigated. La Cosa Nostra was mentioned by Kash Patel, and the Bonanno, Genovese, and Gambino families were allegedly involved. So this is just in the planning stages, and the attorney for some of the players has said that this is blown out of proportion, and they called the arrest a photo op for Kash Patel, and they're trying to get everyone's attention off what's really going on. But that is something that was all over the news, so I wanted to bring it up. And then we're going to go to the super chat. Let's go over to the super chat. Lori Villalobos says, please vote on the 26 and 28 election. The Trump administration is putting people in high office that run the election as deniers of 2020. They want no Democrats in office. Leonard, great job. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. I appreciate that. But I think everyone knows that they're trying to get to the point where they won't even have elections anymore. And as I said yesterday, my concern is when we get to the midterms, is Trump going to declare war on, say, Venezuela or Colombia or some other small country, or saying we're at war, and then say that we have to hold up the elections. Now, at that point, there will be a lot of people upset, and they'll be protesting. And they'll mostly be protesting, I'm assuming, in blue states, because the red states seem to be okay with, whatever is going on, even if it hurts them. And so little by little, Trump is sending the military to occupy those Democratic states, those blue states. And so if there is a protest, the military is already in place and possibly to shut it down. So that's something that we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on. So moving on, what do we have going on? We're going to play some clips, and then in a little bit, we're going to take your phone calls. So be ready to call in when the time comes. The first clip, it's kind of heartbreaking, because they have these videos of federal workers who've been working for 10 or 15 or 20 years and have mortgages just like you and I do, or they rent an apartment just like you and I do. And as you know, no mortgage company is going to wait for their money. No rental agency is going to wait for their money. They want to get paid when you agreed to pay them. And some of the federal workers were told to leave, and they will not have their job back. So they're broke, and they have no more paycheck. And now they're standing in line just to try to get food, just to feed their families. So let's play the clip. Listen to this.
We're just walking through the food bank line, about to get some free groceries because of the shutdown.
Today is only for federal employees and contractors from the federal government. I have never seen anything like going on like this, even with our regular food pantry. It's never been this many people.
It's overwhelming. It's mind-boggling. I myself work for the Department of Agriculture, so yes, and I've run into quite a few co-workers here.
Well, I didn't think I'd be in the food bank line. I got a raise right before the government shutdown. So we're kind of the opposite is happening right now.
I mean, it's really no words. It's like, wow, I can't believe I'm here, you know, because you always thought that getting a government job or, you know, a federal job, that's security. And it's not, you know.
Oh, this is very important. I mean, you know, with my rent due next week, I could take anything I can get. At this point, I haven't gotten a paycheck this month. You gotta save every dime at this point. You know, with rent, car insurance, student loans, those are not stopping. Gas, electricity, but this is a bit more flexible, you know, so this is great.
Heartbreaking to listen to those people tell their story, and I can relate because I was a public employee. I did 25 years. Can you imagine if I was 17 years into my career and I have a mortgage, I had 3 boys that I was raising, and my wife we have vehicles and we have insurance to pay and electric bills and everything you could possibly name, and for you to lose your job and some permanently right in the middle of that would just be devastating. Trump is devastating families while he's talking about spending $300 million on a ballroom that didn't need to be built, and he didn't need to do that at this time. He's given $20 billion to Argentina. He's trying to convince the banks to give him another $20 billion, but the banks are asking for collateral. And so while this is all, and don't forget, November 1st, the SNAP benefits, the WIC benefits, they run out. And all those people that rely on food stamps, and if you don't know what WIC is, it's a program that gives mothers with infants milk and formula and things that they need to raise their children. It's a very, very important program. And I believe, if you check, I don't believe WIC has ever been stopped since its inception, as far as I know. So just feeling really bad for those people, sending them our prayers, hoping for the better. And you know, my question is, a lot of the Republicans, a lot of the MAGAs, they all say they're Christians. They all say they're evangelicals. They all say that, you know, they go by the Christian philosophy. But what they're doing to people, good, hardworking, honest people, you know, is that really Christian? You know, taking away their livelihood, taking away their ability to feed their family and their children, and some have grandparents and parents that they help, and just really good people who wanted to work for the federal government, who wanted a solid job, and they just, by the thousands, they're just kicking them out by the thousands, mostly for political reasons. And what are they doing with that money? Where the money that they save, where's that money? You know, where's that on a spreadsheet? Where's it showing? Where's that money now going that you were paying the federal employees at the time? So the next clip is going to be Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat. And he says President Trump's laying out the groundwork to steal the next election. Using our military to intimidate citizens is moving us toward authoritarianism, including rigging elections. And this is exactly what we've been talking about. And I couldn't agree with him more. Let's listen to Senator Dick Durbin.
Where is this leading and why? I'll tell you, I think you share from what you said, the senator from Oregon, my feelings that this is not the end of it. It isn't a temporary thing. It is a long-term commitment by the president to militarize neighborhoods, particularly those in blue states and cities like Chicago. And what is the purpose? Not just to spread fear, but when the election comes, which is another few months away, of course, but when the election comes, to discourage people from voting in those neighborhoods, if not disqualify them. Does that sound like an outlandish idea from a president who refused to accept the fact that he lost an election It doesn't to me, and it becomes a reality every time I come home. This president argues that there are dangers in the streets of Chicago. 2 weeks ago, the streets were overrun by 53,000 people who didn't live in Chicago. It's called the Chicago Marathon, and they had 53,000 participants and their supporters. A calm, peaceful, quiet, great day in the history of Chicago. And for him to characterize this as a criminal city and one that needs military occupation is totally unfair and doesn't reflect the reality. This last Saturday, as I mentioned, over 100,000 people gathered without violent incident. And a reminder that cities like that are being besmirched by the president are still solid places to live, with their challenges and problems, of course. But beyond that, it certainly doesn't merit the military presence the president is suggesting.
Well, there you have it. I mean, it's kind of...
We're fighting to fix the...
It's kind of ironic because, Brian and I have been talking about this plan, the possible plan, for, a couple of weeks now at least. And I've been thinking this for a very long time. What you have is an invasion, an occupation of the American military in American cities. They are occupying. And what I call it is incremental martial law. Because if Trump were to declare martial law and just turn all the law over to the military, then I think it would start something very serious, because I think even the Republicans on the other side would say, no, that's not going to fly. The American people will not put up with that. So why not do it incrementally? Why not do it city by city? Why not start with the blue cities, the cities with the most people, who have the most Democratic votes, who are the most left-leaning? And Dick Durbin is suspicious of the same thing that a lot of other people are suspicious of. And maybe it won't be that Trump declares war. Maybe it'll be that he allows the vote to happen, but then if there's even the smallest problem in some Democratic state, he's going to say the votes don't count, that they cheated, that it was rigged, and those votes are not going to count. And those are all possibilities. Moving on. So Hakeem Jeffries stated that we have an American president behaving like an organized crime boss, stealing taxpayer dollars in real time in front of everyone in plain sight, and the Republicans refuse to do anything about it. Let's play the clip.
We're fighting to fix the healthcare system that Republicans have broken. And we're also fighting to clean up corruption in Washington, D.C., where we have an American president behaving like an organized crime boss, stealing taxpayer dollars in real time in front of everyone in plain sight. And the Republicans have nothing to say about the emerging crime scene at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
And Hakeem Jeffries brings up an interesting point about medical coverage. And, I can tell you, my rhetorical question is, who are the real Christians? Who are the real Americans? Are the Americans, are they the ones that want everyone to have medical coverage, and they want Medicare and Medicaid, and they want Social Security, and they want the hungry fed, and they want the poor to get some kind of help, and they're trying to save any way they can? They're trying to save the Affordable Care Act, because as of December 31st, those subsidies are going to expire, and they're saying the average family will have to pay $4,000 more to $5,000 more per year, and that's just the average family. And if you have other medical issues, it's going to be even more of that. So who are the real Christians? Who are the good people? If you're not a Christian, if you just go like good and bad or good and evil, who are the good people? Is it the people that think if you don't have medical coverage, oh well, your family should have planned for this, or you should have been a millionaire like me? I've heard some of them say that. You should have planned for it. Are those the real good people? Are those the Christian people? Or is it the people that worry that there's other citizens in the world that don't have enough to eat, that don't have enough money to get by? We pay taxes for social programs. And like I said yesterday, when MAGAs and the Republicans talk about social programs and socialism in a negative way, I always ask them, did you go to work today? Did you drive on a public road? Were there street lights at night so you could see where you were going? Ever been to a park? You like the parks? You have a sewage system? When you call 911, do you expect the police, fire, or medical to come? Because that's all paid for with taxes. That's all public money. That's a socialist structure. And so I know what they're saying. They're tying in the left-leaning liberal part of the Democrats into socialism. But there are parts of socialism that you can't just go by capitalism. Capitalism is whatever I make is mine. And whatever I'm able to do, I can make profit from. And then the capitalist corporations have so much money and they have so many attorneys. I think one of the corporations had like 900 CPAs on their payroll, and they pay zero taxes. Giant corporations bring in hundreds of millions of dollars paying zero taxes, while you and I have to pay somewhere between 15 to 18%. Some pay 20, 25% or more. And if you try to take money out of one of your securities, you could be paying a good 30 to 33% on your money, while everybody else, all the rich people, pay 0% on their money. So Trump's ICE agents shot a U.S. Marshal and an influencer in a botched raid. Every day this administration sinks to new lows. So we're going to play a clip, and so you get a little information about that.
Okay, this is a Fox News alert. This is video that we just have in from moments ago from Los Angeles. This is according to multiple ICE and Fox News sources. A U.S. Marshal and an illegal alien were both shot in L.A. this morning. It was during an immigration operation. Both at this time, we are told, have non-life-threatening injuries. Fox is told that federal agents surrounded and boxed in a target. That target then rammed federal vehicles in an attempt to escape. The feds fired their weapons. One U.S. Marshal was hit in his hand in what initially appears to be a bullet ricochet. The target criminal alien was hit in the elbow, we are told. Both expected to be okay, and they are at the hospital, and we are awaiting an update on that situation.
So there's several issues with that. But when you're law enforcement, you learn about the Fourth Amendment. You learn about the 14th Amendment, your rights against search and seizure, illegal search and seizure. And I don't know what the probable cause was or why, but when you box someone in, when you block them in, that's a seizure. That's considered a law enforcement seizure, and you need to have an articulable reason to do that. And today, most ICE agents are just stopping people because they have an accent, or they speak Spanish, or they have darker skin, or they're at Home Depot. But where I really start to have an issue is I think this is going to escalate, because if you're the average citizen and unmarked vehicles, not police cars, unmarked vehicles, a white van, a black SUV, and they box you in and they come out wearing camouflage and guns and they won't identify themselves, what options do you have? You know, can you resist? Can you say, hey, unless you identify yourself, I'm not opening my window, I'm not getting out of the car? And when you ask them to identify themselves, they won't. And even though people are recording it with their cell phones, these mostly men have masks on. And so all you can see through the mask is some eyes and maybe some details, but you can't really tell who they are. They have random 3-letter codes on. Some of them have DEA, some have U.S. Marshal, some have FBI, some have, one was like a IPS or something like that. I don't even know what that is. And so that's an issue. And I think that it's going to escalate, because if people start saying, hey, you know, these very large men in masks approached me and they seized my person, and I asked them what I did wrong and can they detain me, and they said, I don't have to answer you. Well, you know, when you're a police officer, you have to have either consent to stop someone, you have to have reasonable suspicion that they committed a crime or were about to commit a crime, and it has to be articulable, or you have probable cause to arrest that person and take control of them. But once you take control of them, you have to tell them why they're being placed under arrest. And this is more department policy than it is actual law. You have to tell them why they're under arrest. You have to, if they ask who you are, you're supposed to give your name and your ID number, and your ID number is usually on your badge, and you have your name on your uniform. So I think it's a real issue with people just or men just jumping out of unmarked vehicles. And they asked one ICE agent, I saw a video online, I probably should have downloaded it so we could listen to it, but they asked one ICE agent, they were filming his rear plate, and the ICE agent decides to say, well, that's okay, you can get my plate, I switch it out every day anyway. Okay, well, that's illegal. You know, that's not allowable by law. And so we're going to keep an eye on that, because I think the MAGAs support it. The MAGAs support these men in masks going out and targeting minorities and people who speak Spanish or have an accent or shop at Home Depot. And so I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Moving on to the next clip. Trump on July 31st, okay, and I want everyone to see this. On July 31st, when he was asked about the ballroom, he said, "I won't interfere with the current building. It will be near, but not touching it, and pays total respect to the existing building," which I'm the biggest fan of. He's the biggest fan of the East Wing, the building. It's my favorite. It's my favorite place. I love it. Let's play the clip.
It won't interfere with the current building. It'll be near it, but not touching it, and pays total respect to the existing building, which I'm the biggest fan of. It's my favorite. It's my favorite place. I love it.
So there's a Trump, giving his word again that he would not touch it, and it's a beautiful building. It's my favorite. I love it. And now here we are in October of the same year, just a couple of months later, and he decided to demolish it without telling anyone. And from what it looks like they hired some rental destructive, excavation vehicles, and they're just determined to pull it down. First they said, it'll just be the front part or part of it. And now it's entirely, they said by Saturday it should be entirely torn down. And once again, is this what he needs to be doing when there's so much going on in America? Shouldn't he be having a meeting with Mike Johnson, who some people call Pouty Mike Johnson because he always looks pouty now? Shouldn't he be having meetings with him about getting together with Senator Thune, the leader of the Senate, and saying, hey, when are we going to sit down with the Democrats? We need to round table. We need to talk about this medical coverage. We need to talk about Obamacare. We need to talk about the continuing resolution, which doesn't include anything for the people who need medical coverage. And, Hakeem Jeffries just said, I think this morning or last night, he said the Democrats are in the building. They're at work. They're ready to do their job. They're ready to talk. Chuck Schumer's in the building. They're ready to sit down with the Republicans and try to iron out something that is not best for the Democrats, best for America, best for the Americans and their medical coverage and what's going to happen in the future. And then the Republicans are accusing the Democrats of pulling a stunt and using their we know that if the continuing resolution is voted on and it passes right now to pay the bills, we know that the Republicans are never coming back to the table to talk about the medical coverage. They're never coming back to the table to talk about Medicare, Medicaid, and the fact that the Obamacare subsidies are running out December 31st. They don't even want to work. They've only been at work at 9 days in a month, I think. They're not even there. And the bigger issue is Mike Johnson is shutting down the House and putting them on vacation every week because he's afraid that he'll get the 218th vote to release the entire Epstein files. And I can't wait for that to happen because I think that's going to be a very, very interesting time for us when that does happen. Moving on. So I have a video of a gentleman at the No Kings rally. He's in Alabama, and he's mostly talking about Alabama. But even though he's only talking about Alabama and not the rest of the country, it's a microcosm of what's really going on in the country. And he uses Alabama numbers, but he really, really puts everything into perspective, and he articulates it very well. Let's play the clip.
A quarter of children in Alabama live with food insecurity.
15% of Alabama citizens use SNAP and WIC. That's almost 900,000 people. Alabama has a higher poverty rate than the national average. A third of Alabama counties are maternity care deserts. A third of Alabama counties don't have a pediatrician. Over 1 million people in Alabama rely on Medicaid. At least 300,000 people, maybe more, could gain access to health care if the state expanded Medicaid. That would also create and save jobs and ward off the closures of rural hospitals and healthcare services. But our state leaders continue to refuse to, and our national representatives vote to cut health care. 130,000 Alabamians could lose their health care coverage. You can't call yourself pro-life and refuse to expand Medicaid. You can't call yourself pro-life and cut health care. You can't call yourself pro-life and be against feeding children. You call yourself pro-life because you support forcing every baby to be born, yet you are against helping people who are alive. You can't say you're for small government and want the government in all of the uteruses. You can't say you're for small government and support the federal government taking over cities. You can't say you support states' rights and support other states invading states. You can't say you support free speech but want the government to punish people you disagree with for expressing theirs. You can't say you love freedom if you support taking other people's freedoms away. Good people do not look at what is going on and cheer it on. Good people do not cheer on the oppression of others. Good people do not stay silent as others are being oppressed. Good people know the difference between patriotism and nationalism. Good people don't see people who live differently, love differently, or think differently as the enemy. Good people do not demand obedience and call it freedom.
Okay, so I love that guy, by the way, and I would like to say I could have said it better, but I don't think I can. I think he ran down everything that's going on. He exposed all the BS. He exposed all the programs, and he did the comparative structure. He said, could you be a good person and not want people to have medical coverage? Can you be a good person and not care whether people with Medicaid are going to continue? Because in the big, beautiful bill, even though it hasn't taken effect yet, but Medicare and Medicaid is in trouble, and millions of people are going to either lose their coverage or it's going to be seriously cut. And then they didn't mess so much with Social Security. They did a little bit on the age restrictions and things like that, but I believe that also is coming, and that is a great clip, and I'm really glad that he used passion and emotion, and we may even play that clip again. That's how much I like it. Not today, but eventually. We'll see what Brian says when he comes back. So what's next? So Pushing the Limits radio show. If you want to call in, it's 702-221-7283. We're going to be taking calls soon, and they're already coming in. We already have people on hold, so you're going to have to call right away if you have something on your mind, you have a concern, you have a question. We really like MAGAs to call in, and conservative Republicans, and we would like to hear a really good argument on the other side. We would like to hear an argument about why you think you're good people and good Christians, why you think it's okay to treat the poor improperly and disregard the sick and the elderly and just say, well, that's too bad. They should have planned better, or whatever expression you're saying for the day. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with your calls.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food.
All right, we're back. We have, I guess a lot of people in the live chat really enjoyed those comments from the gentleman in Alabama, and I did research it last night, and it was a repost, and I was trying to find the gentleman's name, and I see someone in the live chat posted the actual link. It was reposted by popular liberal on X. And so that's where, and I did research it, and I tried to go back, but I couldn't find the gentleman, his name. So if we're able to come up with that, I will be back tomorrow, because as you know, Brian Shapiro, the host of the Pushing the Limits radio show, will not be in studio tomorrow. He's debating Tim Pool, and he's out of town right now. He's traveling. And so I will be back tomorrow. And if I can track that name down, because we are going to try to find out the gentleman's name. And like I said, I would like to think I could have said it better, but man, that'd be hard to beat. He hit every point. He called them out. He exposed the MAGAs. He embarrassed them. He made them look like the ridiculous naysayers that they are. And he even spoke about, what it means to be a good person, which you could say is a Christian or a bad person. And so a really good clip, very, very popular clip. So moving on, we're going to go to phone calls now. 702-221-7283. Call in. The phone lines are filling up fast, so I think there's only maybe one spot or no spots left. So call in when you get a chance, and you may have to hold for a minute. Let's go to the first call, number 5. Let's go to Dave. Hi, Dave. Leonard here. What's on your mind?
What's up, Leonard? All right, so I have to give people another wake-up call here. So the money that we're giving to Argentina, which is $26 billion, okay? All right? He's building a stupid ballroom costing $228 million, which is falsely donated money, which he's bull-crapping, talking out of his rear end. We know that. And then on top of that, he's basically hurting the farmers, about, shipping cattle or basically meat to the United States. I'm going to tell you, I don't eat meat. I only eat chicken, fish, and turkey, but who knows, it might be chicken next. But I'm going to tell you right now, he owns everything. He owns the agriculture. He owns the White House. He owns the Senate. He owns the House. And I don't want to hear anybody on this radio show in the chat room coming off and saying, okay, it's the Democrats' fault. It's the Democrats' fault. They don't want to compromise. No, dude. Who's running this whole show right now? It sure in hell ain't the Democrats, and they don't own anything. So we know it's the Republicans' fault because they're going to pay at the ballot.
Right,
one way or the other.
Let me take a moment, Dave. I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second, and so the listeners know what you're talking about with the cattle. So the cattle ranchers came out, and they're saying the tariffs are killing them. And Donald Trump, his comment back was, they don't understand tariffs. Well, yeah, they do, because they're having to pay the tariffs, which means that they're not making as much profit on the cattle that they're selling to America and other countries. So Argentina had restrictions on their exports. Those restrictions were taken off, and they dropped the price of their cattle. They're selling all over the world. They're selling to countries that we would normally sell to. So what that's doing is it's lowering the price on the cattle and the beef for the cattle ranchers in America, and they're pissed. They're not happy about it, and they're speaking out. So what do you think is?
I have a good point. I have a really good point.
Go ahead, Dave.
I have a good point, Leonard. Here's the biggest kicker of the good point that I want to make. We have a pretty good, what you call a food inspection department. We have a food inspection department. I don't trust another country who's going to bring meat in this country if it hasn't been inspected by our people. And I don't believe in shortcuts. You know what I'm saying? So how can I trust another country with their food inspectors, that meat is going to be just as good or basically disease-free or whatnot? I will never eat a piece of meat ever.
Argentina,
and I don't eat meat.
Not to get into the weeds, but since we brought it up, Argentina is saying it's their top beef. So they have What they're focusing on are farms that breed, cattle that produces the best meat for restaurants and for high-end people. And so Argentina is claiming that it's the top of the top and it's the best crop. But if you look at the videos, their cattle, even though a lot of them were young and they're raising them, but their cattle to me, and I'm not an expert, their cattle to me did not look as good as the cattle behind the cattle rancher that was on the news. I think on MSNBC, his cattle look good.
I saw that.
But the ones in Argentina, I'm like, ooh, man, I don't know. And I agree with you.
I don't know. I don't like, and nobody brought that up until me, because the first thing that comes to mind was we are not inspecting that meat. And he doesn't give a damn if it goes past the food inspection department, because he's going to end up selling it, and people are going to be stupid. And the Republicans are going to say, hey, the cattle in Argentina is the best meat that we can bring up here in the United States. Well, hey, stupid, these Republicans own everything, so they don't give a damn.
Is that America First, Dave? Is this really America First? Is what they're doing to the cattle ranchers and the beef industry here in America, which they said America First, is that really America First?
Hell no. Hell to no, bud. Not even. That's a far-fetched, that is a farce, and that's a fallacy that I ever heard one. And as far as I'm concerned, if people don't get their head out of their butts and start thinking twice, I think you're exactly right. You're 100% right that he is setting up these blue states to making sure that the midterms does not go through, that he's going to try to stay in power without the midterms, and without overhauling the Senate and the House, as long as he's going to try to keep them there without overturning the House and the Senate by not having the midterms, so that way they can end up.
And he literally called, the president called North Carolina. He called them and said, I need another seat. And you know what they did? They went and they redistricted and they got rid of one of the Democratic seats. And let me ask you this.
That's exactly what they did.
Why don't you guess what race and what color the person was that they got rid of? Just take a guess.
He was, was he black?
He was. And that
I already knew that.
His name is Don Davis, and he was a black congressman, and that's the seat they're going after. Is that just a coincidence, or is that more of the racist philosophy?
Boy, all of a sudden a fly flew on my nose. Boy, what a coincidence, isn't it? All of a sudden, it doesn't make sense. When you think about it, is that this guy, and I want people to understand. Please understand me. If you are a Republican, and you voted for it, you're a closeted Republican, and you voted for Trump.
It's not closeted anymore, David. They're one of them. In my mind, if you think that someone who goes into teenage girls' dressing rooms and admits looking at them and is an adjudicated rapist who has to pay $86 million and somebody who has 34 counts of felony convictions, and you're still protecting that person like Mike Johnson is, you're the same. In my mind, you are the same person.
But you heard of that, right? If somebody like I'm saying, I want people to understand, if a man cheated behind his wife, and all of a sudden she found out you cheating with another woman, are you going to take that man back saying and say, que sera, whatever will be, that it's never going to happen again, and
probably not
everything's going to be the same?
Some do.
Well, but I'm just saying, but if you stab a person in the back that says that he was going to do everything he said he was just for your vote, are you going to take that person back because he was a Republican and he changed his whole model from being a Republican and decided to do it?
No, you're right, Dave. But I'm going to have to. Dave, you're passionate, and I appreciate your passion, and it's a good call. Unfortunately, we have lots of people on hold, and I'm going to try to get to as many as I can today. So thank you very much for the call, Dave. You have a good day. Line 6, let's go to Stephen. Stephen, it's Leonard. What's on your mind?
Yes, how are you this afternoon? I'm calling because of this blatant destruction of our White House by this madman. I am to the point now, and I think after this No Kings protest that we just had the other day, it's very clear we cannot go on like this for another 3 years. It is time for the U.S. military to intervene in this case. I say shackle his hands and feet, throw him out of the White House and into a jail cell along with his family members. They have done enough wreaking havoc of our country, and as far as I'm concerned, I say freeze all of his assets and let those assets be put into a fund to restore this country. That can be his contribution for not paying taxes all of those years. That's what needs to happen in this case.
Yeah, Stephen, I'm sure there's tons of people out there who agree with you. It needs to stop, and something needs to be done. And they need to look into the violations of the Emoluments Clause, where you can't use your presidential power to make money. However, he has control of the military, and I don't know why, but more than half of the military votes for Donald Trump and speak well of his leadership. He has control of the Department of Defense. But what you can do is you can get informed on what's going on. You could stay informed, and you could spread the word. And you could tell everyone in your family, your neighbors, your friends, anyone who will listen. Even talk to the MAGAs, even talk to the Republicans and try to convince them that what's going on in America is un-American and a lot of it is illegal, and it's really a violation of our civil rights and our most protected laws, and convince them that they need to vote Democrat so that we can get someone else in there and hopefully start to clean up this country.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I come from a red state, and I will tell you that I know some people in the military down here, and I've heard some stories from people, through the grapevine, that they are getting a lot of people. There might be what you're saying, just a few moments ago, but there are a lot of discontent in the military too with this man. I mean, we saw it several months ago in June. When he had the parade. Then, you saw a lot of them that were very reluctant. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. The responses of some of these individuals.
No, we're hoping that in some countries, not this country, and I would never hope for a revolution, but in some countries,
I agree.
The admirals and the generals and those are the people that get kicked out of the military sometimes become the leaders of the resistance. So we'll have to take a look at that, Stephen. We appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm going to move on. I'm going to get to some others, but thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. Let's go to line 4. We'll go to line 4. George, are you there? What's on your mind?
Well, I would appreciate if you said the other side of this.
Going to line 3. Will, what's on your mind, Will?
Hey, Leonard, how are you? Oh man, there's so much on my mind.
There's a lot going on, isn't there, Will?
There's a lot going on, but I'll touch on the thing that I feel that that I see that is most important, because it's people's lives, and it's this shutdown regarding people's health care. You're talking about people that are sick, disabled, people with cancer, whatnot. I think that it takes time for things to soak in, and I think that people are waking up. We got caught on our heels, when it first started. We didn't think it was possible, but look at what America is now. And I think that this shutdown, the way that Mike Johnson is acting,
it's obvious what he's doing. I'll say it. It's corrupt and it's dishonest what he's doing.
And it's the inevitable. It's going to happen. What are they going to shut down forever? No, it's going to happen. They're going to have to come to the table. It might be the biggest shutdown in American history. It might go 100 days.
Can I ask you a question, Will?
Yes, sir.
In your opinion, is it American or un-American to believe in the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, the freedom of the press, the rights to have your grievances redressed in front of the government? Would you say that people that are against the First Amendment, are they American or un-American?
Well, I'll tell you. For a descendant of people that fled a dictatorship and fled for freedom, it is absolutely American to stand with the Constitution,
to stand against tyranny and oppression. You're right.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And I just feel that the more time goes on and the more excuses that they make, And the more time that they don't let that wonderful lady from Arizona get sworn in, it just makes it look worse and worse and worse, and people are going to get madder.
Let me ask you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me ask you another question.
No, absolutely.
Is it
No.
American or un-American to believe that Americans do not have rights against search and seizure? That Americans have a right to privacy. They have a right to not self-incriminate. They have a right to due process, and that they can face their accuser, because that's one of the reasons we left England, is because you couldn't face your accuser legitimately in court. So who's un-American? The people who oppose that? The people who are in masks that are in camouflage, that are taking away your rights every day? Who's more American? The people that believe in that, or the people that violate those constitutional laws?
The people, of course, the people that are wearing masks, you know better than me. Going back in our history, if you covered your mask, it's to cover your identity because you're committing a crime. Any law enforcement person in this country does not wear a mask. That is third world country. The only people that I have ever seen were people that were undercover that had to protect their identities because they were fighting, narco.
Right, but here's the point, Will. Even those guys, even the ones who wore masks, even the ones that were undercover during an operation, once you made your arrest, guess what? Not the people with the masks, but somebody on your team had to tell people who you were, what department, what you're under arrest for.
Absolutely.
And by the way, it had to be a search warrant that had probable cause that was signed by a judge, or you couldn't do any of that. And they're doing none of that. They have no reasonable suspicion. They don't have consent to stop these people, and they definitely don't have probable cause. They're like, oh, the guys in the Home Depot parking lot are speaking Spanish. Come on, guys, let's go get them. That's what they do. Is that un-American, or is it just me?
That is un-American as hell. Just because you speak Spanish, I speak Spanish to when I go to the gas station, when I go to get my car washed, this and that. It doesn't matter what language it is. People are working hard. They're good people. You talk to them, and I talk to them in their native tongue, and I get treated very well because I treat them right. And
isn't that what it's all about? Isn't that where America is? It's about how you treat people. And there's half of the country that thinks people should be treated with dignity and respect for their culture, for what color they are, for what language they speak. So who's the real Americans? The people that respect other people's culture and the language they speak and what they look like, or the people who say, I think it should only be white and everybody else needs to leave?
Yeah.
Who's the real American?
Are the first ones. Those are the first ones that should get thrown on a boat and get thrown out because they're not American and they don't know what American stands for.
Well, thank you for your call, Will. I hate to cut you short, but
no,
I
hear you, brother.
Waiting. I really appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have a good day.
You too. Have a good day. Next, we're going to line 5. Line 5 is Mathan. Mathan, what's on your mind?
Hi, Nathan. This is like completely off the topic. I want to say, first of all, that you are doing a great job.
Thanks,
and
Nathan.
I am a former police dispatcher and also U.S. Army veteran. So I wanted to say thank you for your service. And I get together with my police buddies, retired police buddies, once a month. We have lunch together, and I just wanted to say hi to you.
Well, let me just say, and everyone needs to know this, that, dispatchers, in my opinion, work for God, because the amount of emotion that you have to expend every day taking calls from the public. And keep in mind, the listeners out there may not know, but sometimes people call while they're getting attacked, while they're being raped, while their crime is in progress, and they're crying and they're pleading on the phone. And remember, dispatchers have to put up with that every day. And I'm telling you that every dispatcher that's worth anything always looks out for the officers. They know where they are. They know what they're doing. They check on them. They make sure they're code 4, as we say, or they're okay. And so I want to thank you for your service, because I don't think dispatchers get enough credit for what they do. I could never do it. I was a police officer for 25 years, and I don't think I could be a dispatcher. So thank you.
Yes. There were many nights when I would be sitting there on dawn shift thinking, I hope my guys are coming back safe.
Yeah, well, and they do. They worry about us. They think about us. They make sure that, we're okay at all times. And we just really appreciate everything you do. So Mathan, thank you for the call.
Nathan, yes.
And we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank
All right, next we're going to go to line 1. Line 1, Ricky. Hey, Ricky, it's Leonard. What's on your mind?
Hi, Leonard.
I wanted to actually talk about, I guess, the economy, tariffs, and where we might be going. And as background, I did vote for Trump, and honestly, it comes from like very, very much being influenced by family, who's also conservatives, but it's also like many Latin conservatives. I'm the most Americanized one, like third generation. But
well, let me ask you this before we move on. Yeah. How do you feel now, Ricky? I mean, if you had to vote again, if you had to make that, would you be influenced again, or would you be able to lift the fog and forget about the peer pressure and vote another way?
I really don't. I almost don't know, because I'm I'm honest about that, because in spite of there's kind of like an economic chaos and definitely mistreatment of innocent people by ICE and the Department of Homeland Security, and the tariffs are seem to be causing chaos.
Right.
But,
so let me ask you this: if
Kamala would have,
if you're into economics and you worry about your money and you know that you're paying more for gas, for houses, for interest rates, for credit cards, for gas, for electricity is about to go through the roof all over the country, and you know that you can't even go to the store and go shopping for groceries, and it all costs more, and there's no stopping in sight. The inflation's out of control, and Trump says, oh well, you guys are just going to have now, if you're worried about your own money, your own economy, and what you need for your life, don't you think it'd be better to vote for someone else?
Yes, but Kamala was just so far left, and that's been very destructive to
in what way was she
like
far
South
left?
America.
Name one way she was far left.
Well, she was basically continuing with what would have been Biden policies, and that involved
No. I'm not trying to confront you. What I'm saying is, you said that she had far left policies, and so that is a Republican Fox News talking point, which I understand. And I know she made a mistake by saying she wouldn't change much. She should have said, no, I'm not going to be like Biden. But what I'm asking you is, since it's one of your talking points, what do you mean when you say she was very far left? What policy, what speech did she give talking about how far left she was?
When it came to housing, that she wanted to give homeowners something like, what was it, $25,000, $50,000 in order to help them purchase their own home.
Okay, that's not exactly what. So let me clarify. What she said was you had to be a first-time buyer, and you had to make under a certain amount, so you couldn't be a rich person. It would be for people who were first-time buyers, and a lot of them were young adults and people just out of college. And what she wanted to do was give them a $25,000 subsidy. But let me ask you this, even if that was hundreds of millions of dollars, isn't that better than spending it on a ballroom or Argentina? You see what I'm saying? Like, that wasn't left philosophy, and it was qualified. You had to qualify for that $25,000. That was not everybody. And that was not overly broad socialism where, hey, everybody gets 25 grand for a house. It was a very narrow, very focused group that she was focusing on. But go ahead.
Well, now you can see the influence from my family and community who talk about it as though it is apocalyptic, and it wears off on me.
Are you against first-time homebuyers and young adults out of college and people who make under $25,000 a year or under $50,000 a year? Are you against them getting a little help on their first house? And remember, it was only their first house. It had to be your first house. So people couldn't refinance or buy a second or third house. It had to be a first-time buyer making under a certain amount, and it was mostly aimed at young people. Now, you're saying that your family's against that?
Yes, because it's ultimately a subsidy, a handout, and that can be destructive and ultimately end up in more poverty.
So when corporations get subsidies, do you know what a tax abatement is? A tax abatement means you're a large corporation and you move into, let's say by example, Nevada, and you come in and you talk to the city or the county you want to move into, and you say, hey, I'm a multi-million-dollar factory and I want to move in, but you have to give me tax abatements for the first 3 years to the tune of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. So that means that company moves in and they don't have to pay taxes, which build the roads they drive on and the sidewalks they walk on and the police and the fire and the medical that they call and the parks that they visit. And you're saying those people, that's not socialism? You're saying that's not a handout? That's not corporate welfare? Just because you want that company in your state, and for 3 years they use all the services and all the social services in the world, but they don't want to pay the money. Is that what you're saying?
I just learned about that from you, but we're sidestepping here because I want to go back to the topic of tariffs and these trade wars going on. And
okay.
One thing that and one thing that it seems so chaotic right now, but at the same time, I'm going to admit I'm still at a point where I trust the process, where I trust that there's going to be something greater, because Trump and Elon Musk said that we're going to go through hardship. It's going to be temporary, but what will come after will be so much greater and will be so much wealthier. And above all that,
the only reason that's going to be hard is because it's not hard on billionaires. It's not hard on Elon Musk. It's not hard on Donald Trump. They wake up in the morning and they have more money that they know what to do with. Who it's going to affect is the 75% of the people in Republican states who are on public programs. That's who it's going to hurt. But you know what those people do? Those people say, you know what? I don't mind if I have to hurt a little bit for Trump. I don't mind if I lose a job or lose some money, as long as them other people don't get it. Now, isn't that nationalism? Isn't that racism? You see what I'm saying? And so I think you need to go think about it, because you have a lot to think about. And I have to get to other callers, but I do appreciate your call, and call in again and we can talk about it. Thank you. We're going to go to line 5. Line 5, Jason. Jason, what's on your mind?
Okay, brother, because you're a man of knowledge, so I just want you to remember, being a Christian back in the Roman times is like the N-word. That's number one. So these people that say they call Christian are actually lower than low. Because if you think about it, people that said they believe in Jesus, well, Jesus is gone. It's the anointing. It was the Christ. So people that are actually trying to follow God is actually following the anointing. And that's why so many people could go watch people starve, watch immigrant that needs, say, heart surgery, just let them die. That's why they have no compassion.
What do you think of that, Jason? Not to interrupt you. What do you think of a person, a Christian, who says, well, if you're an illegal immigrant and you're about to die and you end up at the door of some emergency room, is that Christian? Is there anywhere in the Bible where it says, oh, well, you should have not come here illegally, or, oh, well, you should have had medical coverage? Does it say that in the Bible at all, anywhere? If it does, let me know.
Well, let me give you a little bit informed. White national Christians believed in slavery.
Of course,
so they used the Bible for slavery. They condoned it.
Why do you think they say "Make America Great Again"? That's past tense. Is that not past tense? Make America Great Again. You think they're talking about maybe the 1860s when there was slavery?
They're talking about 1779. That's the way I see it. That's what I see. But more than anything, if you think about it, and just really think about it, the Bible says God is of love. God is of love. Now, don't get me wrong. He can't stand sinners and all that. Even when Jesus took all the sin, he had to turn away. But these people are saying that they believe in God, yet they're going to watch a woman. Now, just think about it. A woman that worked, and think about it. You get out of high school, you say, I'm going to go get a government job. You're making $80,000, say $65,000, $50,000 a year. You got a comfortable life. And then Donald Trump comes along and fires these people, and now they're on a food pantry line. These people don't even know how to be poor. At least when you're poor, you know how to be poor. You know how to cut weenies and some ramen noodles. These people have been from straight out of high school to a government job, making a decent living, got a nice car, nice house, nice family, and now they're poor. I mean, poor. They don't even know how to be poor. That's what's sickening to me.
Is it Christian to ignore the poor and not help them? Is it Christian to discard the sick and the elderly? Did it in the Bible? Did it not say you're your brother's keeper? Did it not say that thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself? I mean, I'm not making this up. I'm quoting the Bible. And before you start saying, well, that's just one line, you got to remember that Christianity and the Bible are a codified religion. It's a dogma. Okay, so if you say you're a Christian it clearly outlines in the Bible what it means to be a Christian, does it not?
Yeah, but you got to also remember this, and I want you to answer this question for me. So you're a Christian, but you redline people so you can only have the people you want around you.
Well, that's fascism.
So I mean, you're a Christian, but you don't want people to have their kids to have milk for WIC and cheese and bread. But you're a Christian. You're a Christian, but you want to cut out SNAP.
Christianity says, and WIC. They say the WIC program is about to run out in another week or two for the first time ever, and that's formula and milk and other necessities that go to infants of people who can't otherwise afford that formula.
Yeah, but just think about this. Think about somebody 18 or 19-year-old that didn't, no, I'm not even talking about they got a boyfriend and family around them. I'm talking about a young lady that was raped, and she decided to keep the baby, and she went on WIC, and now she can't even take care of her baby.
Yeah, well, don't get me started on abortion, because obviously Republicans are pro-birth, and after they're born, they want nothing to do with those children. They want they don't want them to be healthy. They don't care if they live or die. So don't even get me started. But I have to cut you off, Will, because we got a lot of calls coming in, and always a good call with you, my friend.
No doubt. God bless you. Have a good day.
You too. Have a good day. All right, let's go to line 4, Martha. Martha, are you on the line? It's Leonard.
Hello, Leonard.
Hi, Martha.
How are you? How do you think that these people are going to do their jobs if they don't cover their face and get these criminals out?
Well, they're in my opinion, since I've done the job and I was law enforcement, in my opinion, they're cowards. And if my department said you have to go out and not identify yourself and not wear badges, and you can arrest whoever you want with no probable cause, no reasonable suspicion, no consent, I wouldn't have done it. You know why? Because we had enough courage to. I did it the right way. I followed every law. I followed every federal law. I did it the right way. And you know what? A lot of people went to jail anyway. So what I think you're saying is those men are cowards, right? Isn't that what you're saying?
Hold on just a minute now, because these people their family will be, they'll get doxxed or whatever that is and all that, and their family will be in danger.
I never wore a mask when I was enforcing the law in public in my life. Is my life in danger?
I don't know.
Because I can tell you right now that, yes, there are stories of running into criminals or people targeting you because you arrested them. But you know what? You got to have the courage to do it anyway. These guys are cowards wearing masks. And there's people who believe, and we can't confirm because they won't tell us who they are. Some people believe that, hold on. Some people believe that a lot of them are some of the men who were pardoned on January 6th that attacked the Capitol and beat police officers with poles and signs and sprayed them with bear mace and everything else.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. But, there's another part of this. This is off of that subject, and I'm sorry, my voice is really hoarse. But, all this, if the Democrats would just open up the government, then we wouldn't have all this.
Yeah, that's not accurate, because the White House and the Senate and the White House and the Senate are controlled by the Republicans. The Republicans have all the power. Mike Johnson's coming in front of the mic every day, and I think we do appreciate the call, but Martha, but maybe next time two cups of coffee next time before you call, and don't be afraid to call back. Thank you. We're going to go to line one, Luis. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Leonard? What's going on, man?
Another fun day.
Awesome. Leonard, I wanted to talk to you. I live in Miami, Florida. So I don't know if you've ever been down to Miami, but Miami is basically, I would venture to say, probably close to 80 to 85% Hispanic, mostly Cuban American.
It's a very fun place, let me say.
I love it. I love Miami. I mean, I love it. This is my home. But since I've been here, I'm 56 years old, and I've been here since for the last 45 years. And from an early age here, all you hear about before in the past, because it was all Cubans, was basically how they would always associate the Democratic Party with communism. Always, it's always been like that. And I used to be a Republican because of that. Because I
you know that communism. Not to interrupt you, but that communism, when you look at it as an ideology, it's actually quite a good. It's a good philosophy. Now it's attached to dictators, and it turned out to be bad. But what communism is supposed to do, it's supposed to be a leveling process where there's not ultra rich and ultra poor, and it's supposed to level so that everyone has a fair chance. That's the concept.
Right.
Now people abused it, but that is the concept.
No, and I hear you. I understand it. But what happens here, and I think with the Democratic Party, first of all, part of the reason why the Democratic Party loses Florida is because we got so many Cubans in Miami who vote Republican. Okay, and what's happening is the Democratic Party, they don't have a good messaging here, because what happens is, like I said, all the Cubans, they come here and immediately they're told that the Democratic Party is the socialist party, communist, blah 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 blah.
Oh
but
yeah,
then again,
they lost the Cubans on the last round for sure.
Exactly, but then again, if you sit down and talk to them and say, like you were talking about before, if your house is on fire and you have to call the fire department, are you going to call a private fire department? No, you're going to call the fire department, because that's
common sense, right, Luis? Common sense.
It's common sense. Exactly. If you're here, are you going to send your kids to public schools? Yes, you're going to go ahead, because that's the way it is, and it's social.
Well, Luis, I got to move along because we're under the gun here. But thank you for the call. Always good to talk to you, and have a great day. Let's go to line two. Line two, Scott. What's on your mind?
I'm going to criticize Democrats a little bit, if you don't mind. Not all Democrats, not even most Democrats, but I think a part of why we lose is being a big tent party. We have to help so many different demographics and constituencies that if you don't help everybody, people get upset. They throw fits. You help the black wing. You didn't help this wing. And so I think that makes it difficult. Then, like in 2016...
So let me ask you, since it's a big tent, and they're, by your words, helping everybody, who are they helping that shouldn't be helped right now? Scott, why don't you tell me?
I'm not saying no one should be helped or shouldn't. I said...
I heard what you said. You said it's a big tent, and there's too many people, and we're taking care of too many people. But why don't you tell me who shouldn't be taken care of?
I didn't say we're taking care of too many people. I said if you don't help each constituency, like the blacks... There's a white wing, the LGBTQ, and others, immigrants. So if you don't help everybody, sometimes some people will go, well, you're not helping me, and they won't vote. Like in 2016, the Bernie bros didn't really want to vote for Hillary.
Okay, well, let's ask you a more simple, here's a simpler question.
Okay.
Who could possibly say in this country they're not getting any help?
Why didn't the Muslims in Michigan vote for Kamala Harris?
What? Who in this
Why
country?
didn't a lot of Muslims
who in this country is not
Michigan-
getting help? Because you said that there's a lot of different. You mentioned black and white and LGBTQ and who doesn't get assistance in this country? Because that is not how it's decided. So I want to see if you know who doesn't get any help.
I say they are all getting help, but they perceive that they're not getting help. So they're like, this cycle, we're not going to vote. Or this cycle, we're not going to vote for the Democrat. That's what I mean. I believe they're all getting help.
Shows like this. This is why we do. This is why we do the shows, because we want people like you to be informed, so you can understand. This is why we do it. You can't just make assumptions, like you said, and be like, well, I guess everybody gets help. Be specific when you call in. Let me know which people get help and don't, and what you disagree with. You can't talk in blanket statements, because the people listening and myself had a tough time following you. So thank you for the call, Scott. We're going to go to Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. It's Leonard. What's on your mind?
Hi, Leonard. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Quickly before my comment, Scott, I remember your phone call from yesterday, and you said you were a little bit racist. You're working on it. It kind of slipped out when you were talking to Leonard today.
He did. It did.
First and foremost, after November 1st, well, even now, basically the Trump administration is going to be starving us, starving children, starving babies. I worked for WIC for 6 years, several years ago as a medical assistant. And not only do they give them the formula, but we had several babies and young children with feeding tubes, severe medical digestive problems where one can of formula in a grocery store, it had to be special ordered from a special pharmacy, $150.
Yes, I'm
now, this was in the early 2000s. I don't even know how much it would cost now. And they can't digest regular formula you just buy at the store.
Exactly. They need Nutramigen or one of the more expensive types. But let me ask you, and I kind of know where you're headed with this, but what kind of people, like, if truly they wake up every day and in their heart they really don't care if people are going to lose their lives, they really don't care if babies are not going to make it because of the political choices that they make, what kind of people would do that? How would you classify them? What can you say about them?
Sadistic.
In part, absolutely, and definitely narcissist, maybe sociopath, right? Because
just
only a sociopath
and mean.
Has no feelings for what happens to other people, knows the difference between right and wrong, but doesn't care. I mean, is that the kind of people we're talking about?
I just can't even imagine it. I'll be 53 next month, and this is something I never thought would happen, ever.
Yeah, I have to agree. If you would have asked me years ago, because I say this to my friends and family whenever we're talking, if you would have asked me years ago if what's happening right now was possible, especially in this short amount of time, I would have said no. I can't see America allowing people to violate their civil rights. I can't see America allowing people to take their money, to steal their money, to lie to them and threaten them and throw them in jail and to get rid of the media. You know, the Pentagon just basically kicked out all of the media. They have to stay outside, and then they let new companies in today, and all the companies are basically like Mike Lindell and some of those organizations that just comment on the news. They're not news organizations. But thank you for the call, Rebecca, and thank you for the information, and you hang in there, okay?
What's your name?
I'll talk to you soon. Okay, let's go to Terry.
Hold on.
We're working on it, Terry. Let's go to Terry. How you doing, Terry?
Hi, I'm doing fine, Leonard. How are you today?
Oh, good. Busy day. A lot going on.
I'll say. Leonard, I'm a lifelong empath, and I am very, very concerned. This is what keeps me up at night. For my brothers and sisters in this country regarding their access to health care and the costs of health care. And I really hate to take this to a morbid place, but I'm hoping that if they can't do something about this, I am hoping that every state Department of Health keeps a record of the people who die because they couldn't get a medication or they didn't have access to health care, because I can tell you right now, if somebody tries to put that out there and say, well, if only my mother or grandmother or sibling or whatever could have had access to the appropriate medication or health care, they wouldn't have died. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way that Donald Trump's government is going to keep an account of that.
Yeah, I think that's coming. And unfortunately, if November 1st hits and they don't, and the Democrats and the Republicans in Congress don't get together and try to come up with some solutions to help the medical coverage of the average Americans. I mean, as of November 1st, 42 million people will be affected. Their SNAP, their food stamp program will be affected, and many of them will lose it completely, and a lot of them, it'll be seriously depleted. So I hope this isn't coming, but like I said, you know, we could pray for them, but we also need to call our senators, call your congressman. You sound like a very smart lady. Maybe give them a call, Terry, and tell them what's on your mind, so at least they know that you're not happy.
Thank you, Leonard. Thank
Have a
you
good
for
day,
taking
Terry.
my call. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
We're going to go to Joe. Joe, this is Leonard. What's on your mind? Hello, Joe. Are you there?
Thank you, Leonard. Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate
You got to turn your radio down in the background.
Joe, this is Leonard. What's on your mind?
Joe, you there?
Hello, Leonard.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah. I'm here, Leonard. Gotcha.
You got to turn your radio down. Go ahead, Joe.
Taken care of. Okay. Yeah, Leonard. I'm doing okay today. I'm really concerned about these extrajudicial killings in the Caribbean and off the coast of South America. I mean,
they just had two more yesterday, I believe, right? Didn't they blow up two more boats yesterday?
And that's murder. I mean, go from the top all the way down to the pilot who pulled that trigger. They should all be. Oh, I can't hear you now. Okay.
Oh, I'm still here. Okay. I was listening to you.
Okay, Leonard. Okay, but I mean, from the top, we had Steph and Trump, all the way down to that idiot pilot who made that illegal order and blew up those boats. Shouldn't they be facing court-martial?
Well, you know, Trump has immunity, but like I've been telling people, you know, at the end of this, when the time comes when Trump's no longer in power and they start taking a look at this, you have to remember all the people under Trump don't have the same presidential immunity. And so they're not contacting the boats. There's no, I can't see any probable cause. There's no confirmation that they're not fishermen. They're actually drug dealers. I don't know if any drugs have been found. And then yesterday or the day before, you know, Rand Paul comes out with a statement and he says that, just so you know, there's no fentanyl coming out of Venezuela. Zero is coming out of Venezuela. So what is really going on? Do you think Trump's just provoking Venezuela because he wants to get into a conflict with them? Do you think that's what it is?
That could be. I mean, it's just so. But back to the whole chain of command, from Trump to head staff.
They could all be in trouble someday. Not Trump, because he got immunity, but I think everybody else might be in trouble one day.
Let's go up to the ship, captain of the ship, the commanding officer, all of them. In hot water.
So thank you for the call, Joe. We appreciate your input. Unfortunately, we're under the gun here. We only have a few minutes left. Let's go to Cyrus. Cyrus,
yes,
what's on your
hello.
mind?
Do you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Thank you for taking my call. So I was hoping to get this to Mr. Shapiro. Have you guys thought about, or what are your thoughts about the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian? Because they're not happy with the current administration, but they're certainly not happy with the Democrats, and I think that's probably why, why 2024 happened in terms of election results.
So you're saying the Young Turks had a lot to do with it?
Well, they're not necessarily them, but I mean their followers, their thinking, what they believe in. You know, it's like they're just this progressive, populist, anti-establishment crowd that didn't think that the Democrats were going to help them, but they're also not happy with the Trump administration.
Well,
either.
Trump is the one. Was he not the one who did the anti-establishment? Did he not say, vote for me, I'll drain the swamp, vote for me, and you can trust me?
I hear you, and they didn't believe that either.
Yeah, but he sold it. He sold it to the people. Trump convinced people that he was going to be the guy that was going to be anti-establishment. Did he not?
Okay, well, that's what they believe too. What I'm saying though is that those voters did not turn out for the Democrats, which is why Kamala got 6 million fewer votes than Biden.
Right,
did.
but he because in a very small, I don't believe it cost him 6 million votes, but in a very small way, the people that were discussing, you know, like your people that are discussing that with him, Trump sold that he was going to drain the swamp. So anybody that's anti-establishment or thought that they were going to shrink the establishment or they were going to hold, and that's what the Epstein files is all about. The Epstein files was all about holding people accountable, and Trump convinced everyone. And Dan Bongino. They didn't like the
Democrats, though. But they didn't like the Democrats
I understand what
either.
you're saying, but
So
I don't think it cost him 6 million
and
votes.
get a perspective. You should interview them and get a perspective. I mean, they were the largest cheerleaders of Bernie Sanders in 2016, which they didn't end up actually, turning out in the general election that year.
Well, people can always email Brian and at the PTL radio show. He has an email, and if someone wants to be on the show, they can always contact Brian and say, hey, someone from the Young Turks wants to go on the show to talk about our position.
I think you should interview them. I think you should interview them.
But they would have to contact us, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, I appreciate it, but those are the handful of individuals and their followers that ultimately determine the election. And so if they can't get to those voters.
How many members do they have?
I don't see how they're going to win in the future.
How many members do they have?
Their YouTube channel has millions of subscribers on YouTube.
Millions?
So clearly there is some impact. And there's many other channels that I bet have similar types of points of view.
Well, like I said, I mean, if someone, really wants to be on the show, I mean, we invite people to be on the show all the time, and we love views that agree with us and opposing views and argumentative views. And so the email is, I don't know if you can see the live feed, but the email is on the live feed, and the organization, or if you know anyone in the organization, they can email Brian and say, hey, we'd like to come on the show, and we'd like to talk about our position. And thank you for the call. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Cyrus. Okay, so what's next, PTL Nation? So let's talk a little bit about the next couple of days. As you know, I'll be in studio tomorrow by myself again. Well, not by myself, I'm sorry. We have the amazing producer, Justin Numchuck, with us, who takes care of the live chat and the show at the same time, and the phones, and just does an amazing job. So I will be here tomorrow. Brian will be back. Right now, the plan is that he will be back Monday. And the next time that I think I will be alone is next Wednesday, but I'm not sure yet. Oh, it's not until November? Okay, so we'll let you know on that. We'll keep you current on that. But I'd like to say thank you for listening. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your donations. This is an independent radio show. And I'd like to say have a great day to everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment.